So GameSir drops controllers like Discord drops updates. There's about 15 every day, and there's no detectable changes between them. The G7HE is just about as good as it gets from GameSir's line of Xbox controllers, and its age has been showing for quite some time. The original G7 and T4K had their own reliability issues. The SE had software, thumbstick, firmware-related issues. The Xbox T4Ks are a pile of garbage based on a controller I used to really love, but have since found out is incredibly unreliable and problematic. And listen, all of this shouldn't have existed. The G7 should have gotten a Hall effect stick upgrade, and then they should have moved on to a newer model with more features or wireless connectivity or something experimental, like the Tarantula Pro, which is another absolute fucking nightmare that both you and me are going to partake in when this review comes out. By comparison, the G7HE actually isn't as bad of a buy. It actually has quite a bit going for it, which we'll talk about with testing and this, that, and the other. All of this, and maybe a few words about the GameSir G7 Pro, are available tonight on channel Blue 42. I am Johan von Olden Barnevelt. We'll see you tonight. It is currently 5:26 a.m. But first, a word. One word. PCBWay is the word, not the bird, because the bird is a bird. Sometimes I do this thing called hating myself, but I absolutely love PCBWay, who's been a massive help to both the channel and channel associates like Marius in making the PCBs for device modifications like the USB-C upgrade for PS4 controllers, or testing hardware for stuff. I've seen multiple RC cars that are PCBWay powered. They also have things like CNC machining and 3D printing to help you out with all of your fabrication needs for making your own controller with 6 buttons. And where's my Razer controller? oh God, I don't care. I do, it's just, it's not actually good enough to get a shout out. Anyways, PCBWay is good enough to get the shout out, which is why I appreciate them being the sponsor of this video. Just check out their service in the description. And now we are back to the Christ on a cross. Will this guy get to the damn video? Since the G7HE is so incredibly similar to its predecessors, this review will mostly be updated response time and thumbstick testing, reliability research, which is very important, and some more of my shitty opinions to give you guys a refined, updated perspective with more data and more concise data on what is essentially old hardware. So the old videos would be useful for things like the M button shortcuts, the clicky buttons, the GameSir Nexus software, shit like that. Now on to the G7HE. This is basically the original G7 with the G7 SE's K-Silver style Hall effect sticks. The HE comes in at a $50 MSRP. Sometimes you can get it for $40 to $45, and because the SE's only selling point were its Hall effect sticks, this is now irrelevant. Again, the Xbox T4Ks have reliability issues, so the HE is the best overall, but it has its own set of reliability issues we'll be talking about here in a minute. Also, if you're looking for trigger stops, GameSir does have a different offering I'll be looking at. Anyways, response time testing, GameSir controllers are fast as hell. Not the Tarantula Pro.
Okay, alright. Okay. Alright.
Fortunately, the G7HE's GPDL response time test was a breeze. And it was also incredibly interesting. Starting with the buttons, not only were the polling rates giving us incredibly accurate response times to within 2 milliseconds usually, each polling rate setting in the Nexus software provided a progressively faster response time, with 250 Hz giving us, crazily, a 4 millisecond response time. 500 Hz gets you 3, and the 1000 Hz polling rate gives you 2 milliseconds, which is very, very similar to this retarded chart I made forever ago, which is never right. The thumbsticks are equally baller. At 1000 Hz, they respond at 3 milliseconds, almost identical to the buttons. And I have to be honest, not only have I never really seen that, I kind of screwed up the other 500 and 250 Hz polling rate response time tests. But the other ones that I did well, I did do multiple times and got accurate results for. You can check out these results as well as many others on various different controllers on the Gamepad, the website linked down in the description below. And let's continue with the sticks. They are giving us the new Hall effect stick, 5 million click cycle lifespan bullshit, about 2 to 2.5 times the average lifespan of the average Alps potentiometer thumbstick. These Hall effect sticks have an identical resolution to the G7 SE at 0.006, which gives us 166 data points, which is slightly above average and feels quite nice actually. More so probably has to do with the response time, to be honest. Also, if you know, you know, the diamond-shaped resolution bullshit, that's also gone. It's been gone for quite some time, but just wanted to mention it. And after performing some more accurate tension test, I found that both of these Hall effect sticks come in at 60 grams, while the original Alps potentiometer sticks featured in the G7, the original G7, come in at 80 grams. 60 grams is comparable to what you'd find at a Vader 3 Pro, so if you've used something like that, you know what I'm talking about. You'd also know the Vader 3 Pro has massive fucking thumbstick caps, and so do these. Continental, aka these are gay station sized thumbstick caps, so you'll need to buy LGBT attachments if you enjoy things like Control Freaks. The black rings around the thumbsticks are also swappable, and GameSir does sell an LGBLT thumbstick ring pack for like 13 or 14 bucks. The thumbsticks, at least these stock thumbstick rings, feel fine. A decently smooth feel, a bit above average, but not like whoa. To conclude the new and improved thumbsticks, the bump in resolution consistency, the slightly above average resolution itself, as well as the insane response time make GameSir sticks here feel quite unique. These are some of the cleanest feeling sticks on the market these days. Some of my favorite. If I could describe them in one word, it would be very, very snappy. And they definitely have some nice refinements over the old potentiometer sticks and even the old Hall effect sticks, but a resolution bump would be pretty cool, or some added features in the software or something, providing it didn't end up fucking anything up. And I say that because I've been doing some looking recently, and GameSir is not immune to fuck-ups. So in the past few months, what has the G7 HE been up to? What failures has it had? Trigger fucking failure, all of it. All of the triggers, failures, and everything, every way it could happen. Physical issues, firmware fuck-ups, and this has been continuing since the original G7 SE and G7. Both of the original G7s, yes, even the one with the anti-stick drift Hall effect sticks, had some drift complaints, likely due to either firmware issues, some type of physical defect, or a loosening spring for the recentering. Stick drift wasn't really that bad of an issue, though. A really bad issue has always been GameSir's cables, and will always fucking be GameSir's cables. I've gone through two. A lot of other people have gone through many, and also the controllers die quite often, especially the G7, which kind of made these controllers a bit more hit or miss, especially when you consider GameSir's 1-year warranty is a bit bullshit, since it's often reported GameSir doesn't honor their 1-year warranty. It's a complaint I'm hearing about more and more from these companies. Please buy additional coverage when you can from whatever retailer you're purchasing from. To conclude the reliability section, there were sporadic bumper and trigger failures back in the older controllers. Who would have guessed? ABXY problems occasionally present themselves as well with the older controllers, of course. And so far, the HE doesn't appear to be in critical condition here, but internally, it's very, very similar to the old controllers that had problems, which is the exact reason I made my predictions in the Wolverine V3 Pro video about its reliability that ended up being exactly 100% correct. As bad as these controllers sound, from everything I've just said, and maybe even what you've seen from reviews or customer reviews, these controllers are about average. GameSir's reliability is about average. I used to think it was much better when the GameSir had a much smaller volume of reviews, but the best that you can ask for is a controller with average reliability that gives you a reason outside of its reliability to have it. It's the best you can ask for. This is all depressing. I'm going to die. So, easy wrap up. This just should have been the G7 SE, and that, I shit you not, that should have been it. G7 SE. No T4Ks, no actual SE. Well, maybe, because the membrane buttons are useful to some people who don't like the mechanical buttons, okay? I understand that. But they should have just made this, a wireless version of it, maybe a Switch version of it, that wasn't the Cyclone controllers, because the Cyclone controllers suck. I forgot that they're over there. Fuck you. And that's kind of just how it is. GameSir has not moved at all. It kind of reminds me of my first real quad where, like, oh my fucking god, the heat just turned on. Do you guys remember the heat? I am so excited not to live in Michigan anymore. I am sick of this shit. My first quad was great, but I was told by everybody that in about a month or two, I'd probably enjoy a nice upgrade. It being $2,000, I was like, yeah, probably not, but it was true. I was very much ready for an upgrade pretty quickly. And you would be too if you have any level of experience with pro controllers, or even if you're just a sweaty controller player, you'd be better off spending a little bit more, or even a decent chunk more, to get a whole lot more. 4 rear buttons with like the Elite Series 2 core, super quick trigger stops like the Victrix Gambit Prime, clicky triggers or trigger stops, even more software settings with the thumbsticks in the case of the Vader 4 Pro, which I know is a Switch controller. And you know, the HE isn't a bad controller, it's just in the context of things, the company's kind of annoying. The clicky face buttons are very nice, but ABXY could use some adjustment on that travel distance, but outside of that, they're very stable, and the D-pad is amazing for fighting games because it's very tactile, very short, and all of the inputs are separated. The rear buttons, the grip, and the ergonomics are incredibly comfortable. The software is the shit when it works properly. The Hall sticks are slick in both of them, and the buttons are incredibly fast. But GameSir didn't really address any of the previous reliability issues they had, so a lot of them have started popping up again, which is a problem because a lot of these Hall effect anti-stick drift controllers with their ultra-reliable sticks still have a ton of issues in other places. The cheap price of the G7 HE is cool, the Hall effect sticks are nice, the features are alright, but I would trade the Hall effect sticks for average feeling potentiometer sticks with 2 extra rear buttons and trigger stops from GameSir. I mean, even that is more interesting than what the fuck they've been putting out recently. I just cannot stand this. Next, we're gonna be looking at some SteelSeries weed buds. And that is my keep an eye out, that is my funniest video in ages. And then after that, we're doing this. The Stealth Ultra Redux video is also gonna be in there somewhere. I don't know. I'm tired, I've been working on this shit. But the G7 Pro, let's have okay, a little off script and a little risky, but let's fucking have a real discussion about that controller for a second. We have G7 Pro leaks. From my perspective, it looks like it's an Elite Series 2S controller. It's gonna be a wireless Xbox controller with what I'm assuming are clicky triggers like the ones in the Cyclone and 4 rear buttons, as well as the rubber grip that you see in all the leaked pictures and whatever. But I asked GameSir about it, they wouldn't tell me anything, so for the next few months until that controller comes out and I can actually do some hardware testing and ensure it's not complete fucking garbage, which I'm assuming will probably be towards the middle or end of Q1 2025, maybe. Until then, I'd say the HE is your best option for Xbox, and the Cyclone 2 is interesting, but I can't say anything about it because it hasn't arrived yet. And I know this is pure garbage. I just, if you want a Switch controller, just buy Flytergy. Actually, don't do that. The software doesn't work on Switch and you need it to use features. For those who are new, please be sure to drop a sub and a like. I love you. Take it easy.